You're bone-tired after a grueling shift behind the bar, sweat dripping down your back, feet aching like they've been stomped on. You head out to your car, dreaming of crashing into bed, only to find your tires flat as a pancake. Rage boils up inside you. You know exactly who's behind it. But hold on, because what happens next is the kind of petty, satisfying revenge that makes you fist pump in secret. This is the story of how I turned the tables on a slimy pub pest named Brad, with a little help from a dog's epic dumps. If you've ever been pushed around by some entitled jerk who thinks they're untouchable, and you've fantasized about that perfect comeback, the one that leaves them reeking of regret, then you're in the right place. Hit that like button if revenge stories get your blood pumping, subscribe for more tales of sweet justice from the depths of Reddit, and buckle up. This one's got twists, laughs, and a payoff that'll make you cheer. Or maybe cringe just a bit. Let me take you back to the early days, many years ago, when I was slinging drinks as a barman in my buddy Wayne's pub. Wayne was the kind of manager everyone loved. Sharp, fair, and he knew how to keep a place buzzing. I'd worked in 4 of his spots over the years, each one busier than the last. This particular pub was a real hotspot. Cozy wooden bars, the constant hum of chatter, the clink of glasses, and that unmistakable scent of spilled beer mixed with fried pub grub. It was the heart of the community, where locals gathered to unwind, share laughs, and forget their troubles. Among the regulars was this gem of a guy named Dennis. He was retired, old school through and through, always showed up in a crisp shirt and tie, like he was heading to a business meeting instead of sweeping up leaves. In exchange for a few free pints, he'd tidy the car park and garden, keeping everything spotless. Dennis had this quiet dignity about him. He'd nod politely, crack a dry joke now and then, and you couldn't help but respect the man. He reminded me of my granddad. Steady, reliable, the kind of person who made the world feel a little less chaotic. But every paradise has its snake, right? Enter Brad. Oh man, where do I even start with this guy? Picture a short, weaselly dude with half-lidded eyes that always made him look like he was scheming something shady. He had this slimy aura, the type who leered at women a little too long, talked down to everyone like they were beneath him, and treated bar staff like personal servants. "Oi, get me another pint and make it snappy," he'd bark, even when the place was packed wall to wall with thirsty punters. If you've ever worked in hospitality, you know the type. They thrive on making your already stressful shift a living hell. The bar would be chaos, orders flying, glasses stacking up, the roar of laughter and shouts drowning out everything, and there'd be Brad, smirking from his stool, acting like the king of the castle. Wayne was cool about letting the staff crash after hours for a wind-down drink or two. Sometimes a few trusted regulars stuck around too, turning the closed pub into a makeshift after-party. One night, Brad was there, holding court with his obnoxious stories. I'll never forget this one. He was bragging about his girlfriend, this fiery woman who carried a carving knife in her handbag like it was lipstick. Nice-looking lady, but unpredictable as a storm. Brad launches into this tale about how she had to fish a sex toy out of his, well, you know, with her nails because it got stuck too deep. The room went silent for a beat, then erupted in awkward laughs. 30 years later, and that image is still burned into my brain. Who shares that kind of thing? Brad, that's who, always pushing boundaries to make everyone uncomfortable. Anyway, that same night, I was the last one out. The pub's front doors were locked tight, so we exited through this side door that led to a small parking spot by the bins. That's where I kept my car. I step out into the cool night air, keys in hand, and what do I see? My ride is buried under 8 or 9 empty cardboard boxes, piled on the roof, bonnet, and boot, like some half-assed prank fort. My heart sank a little, not because it was damaging, but because after a long night, who needs this crap? I sighed, stacked them neatly by the bins, and drove home, brushing it off as some idiot's idea of fun. I forgot all about it until the next weekend. Brad saunters in, orders his usual, and with that smug grin, asks, "Hey mate, did you get your car out okay the other night?" I play it cool. "Why?" And he hits me with, "Well, you looked boxed in to me." Boom. There it was, his confession wrapped in a crappy pun. My blood heated up. I could feel my jaw clench, that familiar knot twisting in my gut. But I didn't snap. I just shook my head, turned away, and ignored the bastard for the rest of the night. Inside, though, I was fuming. Who does that? Disrespecting someone's property for a laugh? It wasn't just the boxes. It was the entitlement, the way he thought he could toy with me like I was his plaything. Time passed. Weeks, maybe months. I can't pinpoint it exactly. Life at the pub rolled on. Busy shifts, friendly banter with Dennis, Wayne keeping everything shipshape. Then another after-hour session wraps up, and I'm last out again. This time, as I approach my car, my stomach drops. The whole thing is slathered in carrot and potato peelings, wet, slimy scraps from the kitchen bin, smeared across the paint like abstract art from hell. Whoever did this had to dig deep into that filthy bin, rummaging through grease and garbage to fish out those peelings. The stench hit me first, that rotten veggie smell mixed with whatever else was rotting in there. I stood there, hands shaking, feeling utterly violated. This wasn't funny. It was deliberate, mean-spirited crap. I banged on the pub door, got a dustpan and brush from inside. Maria, Wayne's wife, sweet woman, always looking out for the staff, came out to see the mess. Her eyes widened in shock. Who would do something like this? It's disgusting. She grilled Brad about it later, but he just laughed it off, that oily chuckle echoing in my mind. No hard proof, but come on. Who else? Brad had stayed late again, and his smirk said it all. That night, as I swept the peelings away under the dim streetlight, I felt powerless, like a chump letting this weasel walk all over me. My thoughts raced. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? If I confront him, he'll deny it and make me look crazy. The frustration built, layer by layer, like those damn peelings. Then came August bank holiday, one of those rare, glorious days in the UK where the sun actually shines, turning the garden into a sea of happy faces, laughter spilling out from every corner. The pub was slamming from open to close, orders nonstop, the till ringing like a jackpot, sweat soaking through my shirt as I poured pint after pint. I started at 2 p.m. and didn't stop until 11, my feet throbbing, arms aching from lifting trays. Behind the bar on a day like that, it's a pressure cooker. Heat from the crowd, the kitchen, and the relentless pace. You push through, but inside, you're counting down the minutes. Wayne and Maria had this Staffordshire Bull Terrier named Red. Tough little guy with a heart of gold, but man, could he produce some waste. We're talking epic proportions. That dog could outcrap a whole parliament session. Every week, Maria scooped it up from the flat roof above the toilets where Red roamed. That day, as I clocked in, she had 2 carrier bags full of the stuff, setting them by the rubbish for later disposal. The smell was pungent, even through the plastic. Earthy, foul, the kind that lingers in your nostrils. Shift ends. We're all unwinding in the bar, glasses clinking, stories flowing, a bit of relief washing over us. Brad's there, of course, drunker than usual, his voice grating louder with every pint, obnoxious comments flying like darts. I'm last out again, step into the night, and my near-side front tire is nearly flat, air hissing out slowly, the car sagging like my spirits. My pulse raced, heat flushed my face. Not again, I thought, fists clenching. Boxes? Peelings? Fine. But messing with my tire? That's dangerous, you prick. I cursed loud enough for Wayne to hear from inside. He poked his head out. What's up? I pointed at the tire, seething. That was my breaking point. After 9 hours of hell, plus cleanup, I was done being the punchline. My mind flashed to Brad's smug face, his laughs at my expense. Enough. I glanced at Wayne, then at those 2 bags of Red's crap sitting by the bins. A wicked idea sparked. Wayne saw it in my eyes. No, mate, what are you thinking? I grabbed the bags, the plastic crinkling under my grip, the weight surprising me. Fake him, Wayne. He's a CT. Words tumbled out, raw and real. Wayne trailed after me as I stormed up the road to the castle, this building where Brad lived in a flat. He subcontracted for British Gas, so he had his own transit van parked in the residence lot, shiny, essential to his job, his pride and joy. We reached the car park under the moonlight. There it was, Brad's van, sitting pretty. Wayne was still muttering, "Don't do it, you'll regret it." But I was past reason. Adrenaline surged, my heart pounding like a drum. I gripped the first bag from the bottom and smeared its contents across the windscreen. Warm, mushy dog poop streaking in thick lines, dripping down like vile icing. What fell off, I shoved into the air intake vents, packing it deep where the fans would suck it in. The stench was overpowering, assaulting my senses, but it fueled me. The second bag? I slathered it behind the door handles, over the rear windows, everywhere he'd have to touch or see. I tossed the empty bag on top for good measure. We hightailed it back to the pub, Wayne now chuckling despite himself. "You're mad," he said, shaking his head. I was still livid, but as I drove home, carefully on that semi-flat tire, a wave of triumph washed over me. Finally, I'd struck back. Sleep came easier that night, the anger easing into satisfaction. Climactic revenge payoff. The next day, Sunday, I pumped up my tire at a garage and headed back to the pub for a casual drink, steeling myself for Brad. If he wanted a fight, I was ready. I towered over him by 8 inches, and hauling ironmongery for work had built me up. One solid slap, and it'd be over. But he didn't show. Wayne pulled me aside, eyes twinkling with mischief. "You won't believe this," he said. Turns out, Dennis, our beloved car park cleaner, also handled the castle's lot. That morning, he'd found Brad's van absolutely caked in dog crap. And get this, Dennis, being the stand-up guy he is, cleaned it all off. Scrubbed it spotless, no questions asked. He even told Wayne he couldn't fathom why anyone would do that to such a nice man. Like Brad. I was gutted, absolutely floored. My perfect revenge, thwarted by kindness. The irony hit like a brick. All that effort, and Brad probably never even saw it. My shoulders slumped, guilt twisted in my chest for making extra work for Dennis. Over the next few weeks, I bought him extra pints, slipping them his way with a quiet, "Thanks for everything, mate." He never knew why, bless him. Dennis passed away last year. I saw it on Facebook, and to his dying day, he had no clue about my stunt. But here's the silver lining, the real kicker that still makes me smirk. Dennis wouldn't have gotten into those air intakes. No way. So every time Brad cranked up the fans in that van, on a hot day, blasting the AC, he'd get a whiff of Red's finest, lingering like a ghost. And oh, the ultimate twist, that flat tire? It wasn't Brad at all. I'd picked up a nail somewhere along the way. All that rage built on a misunderstanding. But hey, Brad earned it with those earlier pranks. Reflective wrap-up. Stories like this remind us that karma has a funny way of working. Sometimes it hits direct, sometimes it sneaks in through the vents. It's about standing up when you've been pushed too far, even if the payoff isn't perfect. Justice isn't always clean, but damn, it feels good to try. If this tale of poop-powered payback had you laughing, cringing, or cheering, smash that like button and drop a comment. What's the pettiest revenge you've ever pulled off, or wished you had? Don't forget to subscribe for more Reddit revenge stories that hit right in the feels. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.